Good morning, everyone. Let's continue the story The Adventures of Toto. When Toto was finally accepted by grandmother, he was given a comfortable home in the stable, where he had for a companion the family donkey Nana. On Toto's first night in the stable, grandfather paid him a visit to see if he was comfortable. To his surprise, he found Nana without apparent cause pulling at her halter and trying to keep her head as far as possible from the bundle of hay. Grandmother finally agreed to allow Toto to remain in the house. To make him comfortable, Toto was placed in the stable. In the same stable, there was a donkey named Nana. On the first night, grandfather went to stable to confirm that Toto was comfortable. When reached he was surprised to notice that Nana was trying to keep her head away from the stack of hay. She was pulling her halter to the maximum. Grandfather gave Nana a slap across her haunches and she jerked back, dragging Toto with her. He had fastened onto her long ears with his sharp little teeth. When grandfather gave a slap on the buttocks of Nana, she gave a jerk and pulled back. Toto was also got dragged with her. Actually, Toto was holding a long ears of Nana with his sharp teeth. Toto and Nana never became a friend. A great treat for Toto during cold winter evening was the large bowl of warm water given him by grandmother for his bath. He would cunningly test the temperature with his hands, then gradually step into the bath, first one foot, then the other, as he had seen me doing, until he was into the water up to his neck. During winter season, grandmother gave hot water to Toto in a large container. It was for his bath. Toto used to be happy to receive hot water. He would cleverly check temperature of water with his hand. Then he would slowly put one foot into water, then the other. He had seen it was doing by the other. He copied the other style. He would sit in water till water came up to his neck. Once comfortable, he would take the soap in his hand or feet and rub himself all over. When the water became cold, he would get out and run quickly as he could to the kitchen fire in order to dry himself. If anyone laughed at him during this performance, Toso's feeling would be hurt and he would refuse to go on with his bath. One day, Toto nearly succeeded in boiling. When Toto became comfortable, he would take soap in his feet or hands. He would rub the soap all over his body. When water became cold, he would come out of it. He would quickly run to the fire burning in the kitchen. He would sit there to dry himself. And if anyone laughed at him while he was taking bath, he used to feel insulted. So he would not take bath. Once while taking bath, Toto nearly boiled himself alive. A large kitchen kettle had been left on the fire to boil for a tea, and Toto, finding himself with nothing better to do, decided to remove the lid, finding the water just warm enough for a bath. He got in, with his head sticking out from the open kettle. This was just fine for a while until the water began to boil. Toto then raised himself a little, but finding it cold outside, sat down again. He continued hopping up and down for some time until grandmother arrived and hauled him, half boiled, out of the kettle. One day, a large pot was on the stove in the kitchen. It had water in it for making tea and bathing. That day, Toto could not think of doing any work, so he removed the lid of the utensil. And Toto noticed that water was adequately warm for taking bath, so he sat in that utensil. His body was immersed in water and the head was out of the water. He felt good till water started boiling. Toto got up in the utensils. His body was out of the water, so he started feeling cold. He sat down in water to get warmth. He did this many times. Then grandmother arrived in the kitchen, So he pulled out Toto out of the utensil. Toto was half boiled till that time. If there is a part of the brain especially devoted to mischief, that part was largely devoted in Toto. He was always tearing things to pieces. Whenever one of my aunts came near him, he made every effort to get hold of her dress and tear a hole in it. Here the author says Toto's brain was full of mischief and pranks. He was able to think of new tricks. He used to tear things into pieces. Whenever his hand came near him, he used to try to catch her dress and he wanted to make a hole in her dress. One day at lunchtime, a large dish of pulao stood in the center of the dining table. We entered the room to find Toto stuffing himself with rice. My grandmother screamed and Toto threw a plate at her. One of my aunts rushed forward and received a glass of water in the face. When grandfather arrived, Toto picked up the dish of pulao and made his exit through a window. One day, a large plate full of rice was laying on the dining table. When we came to dining hall, we found that Toto was greedily eating rice. At that time, grandmother shouted at Toto. He threw the plate at her. Others and tried to move forward. Toto threw water on the face. When grandfather arrived, Toto picked up the plate of pulao and went out through the window. We found him in the branches of a jackfruit tree, the dish still in his arm. He remained there all afternoon, eating slowly through the rice, determined of finishing every grain. And then, in order to spite grandmother who had screamed at him, he threw the dish down from the tree and chattered with delight when it broke into 100 pieces. The narrator says he saw Toto was sitting on a jackfruit tree. The plate was still in his hand. Throughout the afternoon, he sat on the tree. He was slowly eating from the plate. He was determined to eat every grain of rice. In order to tease grandmother, he threw the plate from the tree to the ground. He shouted with happiness to observe that the plate had broken into hundreds of pieces. Obviously, Toto was not the sort of a pet we could keep for a long. Even grandfather realized that. We were not well to do and could not afford the frequent loss of dishes, clothes, curtains, and wallpaper. So, grandfather found Tonga River and sold Toto back to him for only 3 rupees. At last, the author's family decided to sell. The author says they realized they could not keep an animal like Toto as a pet for a long time. Then grandfather also understood it. The family could not tolerate loss of dishes, clothes, curtain and wallpapers. So grandfather found the Tonga driver. Grandfather sold Toto back to him for 3 rupees. Thank you children. I hope you can understand the story. See you in the next video.